Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to Nadex. My name is Philip and I will be your presenter for today's webinar. And just as usual, if you have any questions, please put those questions in that small questions box that you can see on your screen. And I'll do my very best to answer those questions as we move through the webinar. Right now, I would appreciate a very short yes or why in that box to just let me know that both the audio and the screencast are working properly, so that I know that you guys can see the screen and hear me well. Perfect. Thank you very much, everybody. Really appreciate the feedback. Today's session, just as usual, is scheduled to run for about half an hour. And of course, before we get started, there are our usual risk disclaimers that I need to make you aware of. So please take a moment of your time to read through those carefully and make sure that you're comfortable with them. Essentially, this says that trading, of course, involves risk and that you should understand those risks and the instruments you're using before you are getting active in the market. As neither TradeAble's position nor myself are investment advisors, nothing that we say should therefore be considered to be actual investment advice. All examples are shown for educational purpose only, especially true for the live part of today's webinar. I have I have identified 3 markets which I think are interesting right now. But again, even though I think something might be setting up there, that's just my opinion. I don't have a crystal ball. I will never know what the future will bring. And it's just about probabilities. I think we can identify certain setups which are more likely to happen than not, but we will never know for sure. So keep that in mind. It's really just for educational purpose. And just because I put on a trade during today's webinar, this does not mean that you should blindly follow that trade or any other suggestion that I make. I'm just trying to illustrate points. I'm trying to show you guys the thinking process, and trading binaries and spreads involves a certain mental process that you have to go through. You have to think about certain aspects, and if I put on trades, it's really just to illustrate those aspects. What makes me think that one contract might be better suited than not for a certain type of setup, or the other way around. So please make sure you're okay with this before continuing with the webinar. And that being said, here is the risk warning from Nadex. Trading on Nadex involves financial risk and may not be appropriate for all investors. The information presented here is for information and educational purposes only and should not be considered an offer or solicitation to buy or sell any financial instrument on Nadex or elsewhere. Any trading decisions that you make are solely your responsibility. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Nadex instruments include forex, stock indexes, commodity futures, and economic events. Nadex binary options and spreads can be volatile, and investors risk losing their investment on any given transaction. However, the limited risk nature of Nadex contracts ensures investors cannot lose more than the cost to enter the transaction. Nadex is subject to US regulatory oversight by the CFTC. And that being said, let's have a look at today's agenda. Our regulars know it already by heart. Just to say, frankly, we want to look at the markets. We want to look at the markets and see if something is setting up. And my main point is I want to have some kind of strategy in place that helps me to probably have potentially more profitable trades on than losing trades. And trading is never about one trade. Trading is about having a large sample set of trades at the end of the year, and only then can you identify if your strategy, if your approach to trading makes sense, is profitable, or if it isn't. And therefore, one trade means nothing. It's always about that large sample set of trades, and you want those trades to be comparable, because if you just trade different styles all at the same time, there's nothing to be learned. You don't have any consistency. And for that reason, I think having a strategy is really paramount, and you have to follow that strategy as good as you can. You can't influence if your next trade will be a potentially profitable trade or not. You just don't know. It's really random outcome. It's hard to accept, but that's the way trading is. But the only thing I can do is that if I follow my strategy and execute that strategy flawlessly, I stick to the rules, I execute that strategy as good as I can make sure that those trades are comparable, and then the law of big numbers can work in my favor, given that the strategy has a positive expectancy. And this is pretty much what all the trading is for me. I have to make sure that I understand the strategy, that I execute my strategy flawlessly. And this is pretty much what we want to do here today. We want to look at the markets and see, are there any setups, potentially tradable setups? And yeah, that's pretty much it. And just a quick reminder, if there are any questions at any given point in time, I'm more than happy to answer those questions. I don't see that session today or the others as primarily market commentary. For me, it's giving you guys the opportunity to ask questions and to learn about our approach to trading here at Trade with Position. And yeah, the big question is, what is our approach to trading? Our trading always is trend following based, which means we want to see a trend in place, and we think that if something is in motion, it tends to just stay in motion. Raphael is having some issues with the audio. Could I please get a very quick ping from the other guys if the audio is still working fine for you, or if it's a general issue here? All right, while we wait for that feedback to come in, let's have a look here at the first market. I want to start and kick it off with, thanks Chris, Dwayne, perfect. Thank you very much everybody, really appreciate it. All right guys, so we just carry on here. US dollar, Canadian dollar. And let's get started here with the daily chart for a change. This is what I'm looking for. I hope you can see that this is a nice downtrend, and I want to trade this market to the short side. It's a downtrend and this market is going lower for all this time. How can I see that this market has been in a downtrend? Well, the market is making lower lows all the time and also lower highs. And as long as I can see those lower lows and lower highs, it's a downtrend. I don't need any fancy indicator to tell me that it's a downtrend. I just look at the lows and the highs. Now, the question here is, if it's a low, if it's a downtrend, what else? What other indicators could I use to establish that this is potentially here a downtrend? Well, I'm looking here always at my moving averages. I don't care if those moving averages cross each other. What I'm looking for is here that fanning pattern. I can see that the 10-period moving average is well below the 20, below the 50, and now also below the 200. This fanning pattern is something I only can get if the market is in a strong trend. Now, if this market is going lower, it always retraces from time to time. It went lower and went back here to a moving average sell zone. That's the area, how we call this area, between the 10 and 20 period moving average. And we have just seen the same thing happen now. Now, what I don't like about this downtrend here is this pullback has been a little bit deep right now. Usually I want to see that this this retracement takes us right back here into a moving average sell zone or very close. Here, however, we have retraced significantly beyond that moving average sell zone. And you can also see that the 10-period moving average already has started to pull back. It has started to close the distance. The moving average sell zone is closing down. All this is not really that convincing for a potential, for just a retracement and trend continuation. And you can also see that both MACD and RSI have started to pull back rather deeply. And for that reason, I'm a little bit weary here what the market might be doing next. This is just to show you guys what a beautiful downtrend looks like. Now let's have a look at the other time frames. I want to have a look at the monthly chart in order to just give me an idea what the market has been doing and where we are. And we can see the price has dropped, has tested this low here once again, and now it's just started to rebound. It's pulling a little bit back, and right now we're sitting here just between those two levels. And this level here is at 127.151, something like that. Is it a downtrend here? Well, yes, we have seen a lower low. We have to wait and see what the next high will be. But currently, people is just a second. Oh, guys, sorry, just a second. Can you guys see my screen now? I'm really sorry. I screwed up. I forgot to push the button. Sorry, guys, really sorry. Okay, let's do a quick review here about what I've been talking all about. I'm really sorry, guys. Okay, looking at the monthly chart on US dollar CAD, we can see the price sitting here in this range between those two levels. We made a lower low here, And right now we're coming back to test this level. So right now we're sitting here between those two levels, and I'm just coming back here now to the weekly chart. On the weekly chart, we can clearly see that it is a fresh downtrend. We're seeing the lower lows, and now we're now just pulling back once again. We see here this level where we're pulling back to, and we're still a little bit far away from this area. And so I think there might be a little bit more room for retracement, but as always, my guess is as good as yours. I don't have a crystal ball. I just have learned to read price action, and by reading price action, I think I can stack those odds a little bit further in my favor and have a potentially profitable trades on my hands a little bit more often than not. But there will be losing trades. Just to be absolutely sure about that, trading is all about having, you will always have potentially profitable trades, and you will always have losing trades. The trick is to win more often than you lose, and the winners should be bigger. That's positive expectancy, and this is what trading is about. So if I say we have some more potential here for a pullback, it's just that, it's potential. It's definitely not a sure thing. But I think we have some potential for a little bit more extended pullback here, and now you guys can also finally see this beautiful downtrend on the US dollar against the CAD. Clear lower lows and lower highs. You can see this fanning structure here in our moving averages now. You can see the wells, those moving averages start to separate from each other all this way. But now you can also see that this pullback here is a little bit way too deep. We have moved beyond our moving average sell zone. And yes, we're getting now a small bearish candle setting up here. Those familiar with our strategies, with the trend flow strategy, you might be tempted to think, wait a minute, this is the small bearish candle that I've been waiting for. Now we should see the trend continuation to the downside. In theory, yes, I'm there with you. What I don't like about it is it's way beyond our moving average sell zone. And if we have a look here at the weekly chart again, it's also overextended from the moving average sell zone on the weekly chart. So I'm not too happy with the setup here from a short perspective. I think market might be even pulling back further. And where might it be pulling back to? Well, one way to find out is always to use Fibonacci retracements, for example. And if I draw that Fib retracement from the recent swing point and from the one before that, we start to see the price tends to cluster here around this 128 level. And this 128 level, we have another level waiting here above it. I think there might be some decent chance that this 61.8% retracement, together with a 38.2% retracement from the previous one, that this might present a rather interesting area where price might be pulling back to. And so personally, I think we have some potential for price to continue towards that 128 level. Do I know? No, I don't. All right, so you could have now two opinions, and which one you take, that's your strategy, that's your approach to trading. I want to show you guys some potential ideas here on how you could trade both a long trade or a short trade. And for that, we just now switch over quickly here to our Nadex platform. And just a quick reminder, if you have forgotten your credentials for your demo account, for example, just click here when logging in into that forgot your login details. Just fill in the box, hit the button, and you're up and running in no time. Much faster and easier than giving support a call. But of course, if there are any further issues, support is always happy to take your call. All right, so let's have a look at the platform. And we're looking here at US dollar CAD. And just a second. And let's look here at the daily. Now, when looking at the daily here, we have now two possible ways to be trading that market. And if you think that price might be going higher, again, it's not a recommendation, it's just for educational exercise. If you think the price might be going higher, one idea is to look into trading a spread. What is a spread? Well, a spread essentially gives you a certain range in which price floats and in which you potentially can profit from from those price fluctuations. And that range here is determined. You can see it's not just one price, it's not just one strike price. It's a range. It's 126.80 to 129.30. And that means as long as price floats within that range, the value of your contract, of this contract, will participate in that range. And so if you think within the next 2 hours and 45 minutes, always keep in mind that those options have an expiry. At that point in time, it's judgment time, and that option contract will settle. With a binary, it just comes down, is it in the money or is it out of the money? $100 payout or zero, and with spread, you're just looking, are you in the range, and if so, how deep in the range, and there the settlement or the money is being paid. Now, if you think price might be going higher, I will always want to enter as low at the bottom of that range as possible. Now, 126, the one at the top here, 126, we're now currently trading at 126.598. So pretty much even below the floor of that range. What does this contract do for me if I enter that contract? I participate potentially in the whole range if price starts to push higher. I'm entering at the floor. The only money that I could be losing at that point is what I'm paying for this contract right now. So if I'm looking to enter this contract here, I want to buy, and you can see just 2 hours, 43 minutes left. And right now I'm paying $4 for that contract. This is all I can lose if I put that trade on. Now that maximum profit of 246 sounds absolutely awesome. Just keep in mind, it's not that it has to be above 126.80. No, I only get that maximum profit if it's trading at or above 129.30. Do I think this is realistic in just 2 more hours? I don't think so. But do I think that price has maybe the potential to move higher? There's a decent chance that it will do so. And I'm just risking $4 now. And let's just say I'm trading 10 contracts here. My maximum loss would be $40. And if price really starts to shoot to the sky, or at least to the ceiling, that's my potential profit. It's not the profit that I'm expecting, but I think right now, if you think that price might be going higher over the next 2 hours, 42 minutes, that might be an interesting trading opportunity. Let's just put that trade on. If on the other hand, you think that price is rather poised to go lower over the next few minutes, 2 hours, 42 minutes, then you might be inclined to search for something. If we're looking here at a spread, to search for something where we're trading at the ceiling of that range. And 126.80, why not look at this one here? If we want to sell this contract, now we're trading very close to the ceiling of that contract right now, which means if price starts to go higher, there isn't really much more pain for you to take because you're currently already sitting there at the ceiling. So if we want to sell this contract here, little pain to take on the upside, but a lot of wiggle room for price to work in your favor. You participate from any price movement to the downside up to down to a price level of 124.30. So pretty much same idea. You could put on that trade here. And why am I shooting now for 9 contracts here? Well, the idea is if I have an account value of around about $20,000 demo account, and again, it's really just for educational purposes. My idea for risk management is always to risk around about 1% of my account on any one given trade. So if I'm happy to say, okay, I'm risking $200, and if those $200 are gone, it won't kill me. I will still be there to trade and try again tomorrow. I just have to see what is my maximum loss, how many contracts can I trade so that I'm very close to those round about $200 that I'm willing to risk on that trade. Is round about nine contracts here. I could be placing that order, and you see the order is now on. And yeah, that's pretty much how easy it is to A, open that position, B, the logic and thinking behind which spread to take, You have to think about it if you want to go long. My take or my approach to trading here is I want usually to enter as close to the floor as possible, because this gives me the whole range of that spread, the whole distance between those two strike prices to work in my favor. I can participate in that over that complete distance. And if I want to be short that spread, if I think prices are going lower, I want to enter as close to the ceiling of that spread as possible. All right, I hope that makes sense. You have seen how easy it is to put on those trades. Usually in the last few sessions, I always have put on binaries. Here with that potential trade here, I think that the spreads and the ranges of those spreads have fit quite nicely. And so I went to show you guys those today. All right, so that's it here for US dollar against the Canadian dollar. And you see it sitting just here. Obviously, I always want to check also the lower time frames, what's going on there. 4-hour charts, 8-hour chart, still push here to the upside, still looking somewhat nice. 2-hour, 1 hour, and 50 minutes, way more noisy. Tamar, thank you very much for the feedback. Tamar says, awesome first spread edu class that I finally understood. Really, really glad to hear it. That's what we're here for. Much appreciated, Tamar. Thank you very much. All right, so looking at different time frames, and the idea here with the US dollar CAD and why I don't think that this is a perfect trend flow short opportunity, pulled back too deeply, and yeah, some loss of momentum. And my personal bet would be rather for a retest of this 128 level here somewhere in the future. I don't know when and how, but I think personally that this might be just a little bit more likely than now just a trend continuation. But we will have to wait and see. This candle is still printing, and this candle only finishes at midnight. And until then, everything can happen. This could turn into a very bearish candle. This could turn into a very bullish candle. So the question here always is, for me, I want to see what that candle looks like first before I make any trading decisions. Based on the candle itself. Raphael asks about a recording of today's session. Yes, those sessions are always recorded, and I think the video should be up on the Nadex website and at the YouTube channel pretty soon. But we can make sure that somebody from Nadex will be in touch with you and follow up with you on that, Raphael. But thanks for the question. All right, I have to speed it up a little bit. Second market, Euro US dollar. We have covered that market during the last few webinars. And I just want to show you guys what I think what price is doing right now. Weekly chart, last week's session, rather bearish. Why was it bearish? Price pushed higher, and in the end, all this moved to the upside here. All this effort from the bulls trying to push prices higher was a little bit in vain. We have just been able to close that session here, very close to where we opened. Only a very small body, somewhat bullish body, but clearly that candle is dominated by the long upper shadow. Looks rather bearish to me. Sure enough, this week's candle, keep in mind it's just Tuesday, so this doesn't mean a thing yet, but so far it doesn't look that strong either. So weekly chart, and have a look at the distance here between the moving average buy zone. By the way, again, beautiful fanning pattern, and yes, it's clearly an uptrend. But now we are overextended, and so I think the weekly chart might give us just some more idea here, some more wiggle room here for a pullback even further here into a moving average buy zone. Looking at the daily chart, once again, beautiful uptrend, and I've just put in 2 Fib retracements. Again, one from this starting point and one from the previous one. And here, once again, you can see that the 38.2% retracement and the 50% retracement pretty much sit at the same price level. They come to cluster together, and even if you think that this here might have been already a new swing point low, then they would be just sitting on top of this low. So we can just take this line here and put it there, just to illustrate that point, that this might be a swing point low here. And so we start to see this cluster here, everything comes together. So right now, do I think that this retracement here is already over? No, I think it might be continuing. And my guess would be for a potential target of this area here. But once again, I don't have that crystal ball, and my guess is as good as yours. Absolutely likely that we can see another small bullish candle setting up here, and then it's off again to the races. Nobody knows. It's about stacking probabilities. What would I personally trade in my own account? Would I trade for a retest? Would I do that counter trend trade here? No, I wouldn't, because I think the market here is an uptrend. This is the major move in the market, and I don't want to trade against this major trend. I feel that taking this counter trend trade is not as likely as waiting for a good buying opportunity here and then thinking that the market might be continuing. So going with the trend for me always has a higher probability of working out. Both trades could be potentially profitable, both trades could be potentially losing. It's just about, I know that from my statistics, trend continuation is a little bit more likely than the other way around. If your game is just trading those retracements and doing counter trend trades, that's perfectly fine and there's nothing wrong with it. You have to find some kind of trading style that works for you. And if that's your game and you're successful at it, by all means, keep on going. It's just not the game that I'm trading. All right, so quick update on Euro US dollar. I think there might be some more room here for potential pullback. And the third market that I wanted to have a look at is gold. Now, if you just have a look here at the daily chart, you can see that gold is definitely showing some signs of strength. Price has been pushing higher, and if you compare this level, if you compare this price level here roundabout, we can see we have now clearly made a new higher high. We have made new higher lows. We have now just pulled back once again. We saw a small bullish candle setting up here yesterday, and today's price action not so nice. And what's going on here? It's an uptrend on this chart. Is it tradable? Yes or no? A major role for taking trades for me personally is to see that multiple time frames are in agreement. I want to have a look at the same thing from different angles. I want to find different perspectives on the same market, and those perspectives, I want to have a look at a new house, at a real estate object from different angles, and I should be fascinated and I should think that this object is beautiful no matter which way I look at that house. And it's the same thing with the market. I just don't want to have a look at this market here and think this is an uptrend and I could be trading this uptrend. But if I switch to a weekly chart, I get a totally different picture. What's the market doing here? Honestly, I don't know. I don't know at all. This is a range-bound market. Yes, we see a little bit price action, more consolidating, a little bit of volatility crunch and squeeze. But then again, this might be a lower low, this might be a lower high. Does this mean it's already in a downtrend? Technically, yes. Is there anything going on from significance? No. Here we can see those moving averages fanning. The market is moving, but here it's just really moving sideways. And just look at what those moving averages are doing. They're all over the place. No clear-cut pattern, nothing really setting up here. No strong bull market like we saw here. No bearish mini trend, or what you want to call it, like here. Here is really, it's not clear what that market is doing. So if I wanted to take a trade on the daily chart, for example, yesterday, remember that small bullish candle here? I want to see that the higher time frames are in perfect agreement. They should give me and tell me perfectly the same story. And I don't get that from the weekly chart. I don't get that from the monthly chart. And if I start to look down and come down here to lower time frames, 2 hours all over the place, 4 hours a little bit more bearish, 8 hours again also a little bit more bearish, but I just don't get that clear picture about what's going on. And this is why I think that looking at multiple time frames is so important. If you just saw the daily chart, you would have jumped to conclusions and say, yeah, that's a nice setup here. I have to trade this market to the long side. But if you have a look at that market from different angles, different perspectives, it just doesn't make any sense. They don't tell you the same story. It's just a lot of white noise coming into your mind, and you don't know how to tackle that market and how to approach this market. So I hope that was helpful just by looking at gold. Personally, I really hope and would appreciate if gold was going higher, but that's just me. Looking at the charts, I have no clue what might be coming next for gold and silver, and for that reason, I won't be trading those markets for the next few times. And just compare that with the nice structure that we have once again in US dollar against the Canadian dollar, or for example here also euro against the US dollar. I think there's a lot of good markets, good trends going on there right now. No need for me to be trading some markets where I just don't have those setups, where I don't get those trends, where I just can't stack the probabilities in my way, in my favor, as I would like to do it. All right, everybody, I hope all this rambling made sense. Again, huge apologies for forgetting to turn on the screen in the beginning. But I hope in the end everything has worked out. If there are any questions, let me know. I'll do my best to answer those. And yeah, for all of you who have to leave right now, here are some ways to be in touch with Nadex. If you haven't opened that, either your account or your demo account, by all means, you see it's very easy, and just sign up on the Nadex homepage. Or if there are any further questions, there are multiple ways to be in touch with the good people at Nadex, and they're more than happy to help you both with the sign up and to answer any questions that you might have. All right, there seem to be no questions. Michael, thank you very much for the feedback. Yeah, then this would be the end for today's webinar. I know that I enjoyed it, but more important is that you enjoyed it, and I hope you did so, and you learned something new and you found it useful. Yeah, as usual, after this webinar, there should be a short survey. Any feedback that you do have for us is really appreciated. We're running those sessions for you, and therefore you should tell us what you want to hear, because we are happy to be giving you that content. All right, guys. Yeah, thank you very much once again. Great participation, great questions today. And now to all of you, have a great day. Happy trading. Catch you next time. Thanks again. Take care and bye-bye.